Yeah, I had a good week, I thought, last week. I'd been saying this here for a couple of days. Thought we got a lot done in terms of our self-scout and self-evaluation. I thought there were a lot of things that we needed to tweak and adjust. And then probably the thing that was most exciting was just how much work our young players got last week. Sometimes when you can take a step away from your game prep, you have a better chance to give more opportunities and turns to some of your younger players. You know, sometimes those red-shirted kids or those players that aren't getting a lot of repetition get lost out there a little bit when you're in your game week routine. But we got an opportunity to evaluate some of them and develop some of those players a little bit more. And some of those players, as you know, are playing here this year. So we're hopeful that they can add some value here heading into Maine and then obviously heading into conference play. So with that being said, I'll take any questions here from the media.
So look, one second, Coach.
Put that microphone. I don't know why it's not working.
Okay.
Just use that. And
Okay.
we'll take about.
I'll lean forward.
Okay.
Just look, I got a bad back. All right, thanks. Any questions, please, from the media?
Coach, when you look at last year's result versus Maine, you guys got started off fast and then just kind of all fell to pieces a bit there. What do you take from last year's game that you're going to use going into this one against Maine that could help you guys?
Well, I think there was a lot of things to take from that game. I think the first thing to take was that we just were not ready to play. You know, I think it was kind of the cliche-ic, you know, just won a really big game at home against Villanova, then going on the road in a game where people probably thought that we were going to go up there and win, and we underperformed and weren't very physical, didn't execute very well, didn't have real good focus. So we opened up the game with a good drive and get a score, and then from that point on, we really self-destructed. Turned it over 5 times, I think, had a punt blocked for touchdown. It was really a comedy of errors, you know. So, very disappointing outcome a year ago. I think to our kids' credit, we responded and, found a way to answer the bell 2 weeks later on the road. So I think that's the first thing that you got to recognize. I talk to my players all the time about, putting it on tape. Well, who are you as a player? Don't talk about it. Show me. Put it on tape. What's our defense going to look like? Don't talk about it. Put it on tape. And, during the open date, we all had a chance to go back and watch that film. And I certainly didn't like what we put on tape as our head football coach. And I know a lot of our players, had to take it more personal than me because I was never caught on film, and they were. So I think that's kind of the starting point. And then to say that, conference play starts. And then, like I say all the time, and then there's the X and O component. There's a lot of things that, we looked at very hard in terms of, trying to attack that defense, which is a really good defense. That front seven's outstanding. And then defending that style of offense. So hopefully we've made some good strategic decisions. And then hopefully we've gotten their attention with the reality that we were just disappointed in what we put on tape a year ago.
Danny, for Maine, 11 sacks among 25 tackles for losses, and that's a big number for 3 games. How do they generate that sort of pressure?
First of all, I think they're really good up front. I haven't seen Stony Brook on tape this year, and I know that there is a reality that their front seven's really good with a dominant player or two. This group right here up front is as good as I can remember seeing in a while. The inside defensive tackles are physical. Ricard, great motor. The edge rushers, need attention. They can rush the quarterback, pressure the quarterback. The middle linebacker who's been out of the lineup, I'm sure will be back in our game, is, a dynamic player, So, you got some real personnel items there that I think, That's where it starts, you know. And then I don't think they're like overly complex defensively, you know what I mean? But they do what they do well, and they do it with confidence and an attitude, you know. So you got good players playing fast that are tough kids that play with an attitude and toughness. I kind of said this the other day about Coach Cosgrove's teams. I mean, they're always well coached. They're always physical. They're always focused. Some years are more talented than others, you know. And, you know, sometimes it's more talented in certain areas than others. This is a team that I think the front seven is very talented. The rest of the team is certainly talented, but I think they're almost elite in that area right there.
But going off of that, they've also given up some big plays in the passing game. Is that a byproduct of having a strong front seven, or are there some?
They're young. They're young in the secondary. You know, they defended BC real well. I mean, when you watch the BC game, there was physicality on both sides of the ball. You know, BC has shown well thus far this year. I think Florida State beat them 14-0. When you watch the BC game, you really didn't see BC take advantage of much in terms of Maine's defense. Tulane did. You know, Tulane was able to get into the open field a little bit more frequently. Their style of play allowed them to do that. They were able to win some one-on-one matchups in the secondary. So it's a week-to-week thing. It kind of always is, you know, as to what your matchups are like, what your style was like when you go against a certain team. Like, for example, if you got a really good pass protection team, you know you got good personnel on the offensive line and you can pass protect, the whole game changes. You know, like last week with Rhode Island, they really couldn't pass protect these rushers, you know, so the game just shrunk on them, and there was little time in the pocket, and even some of the throws they were made out of duress. So if we can win some of the matchups, you know, which we're going to win, I mean, you know, we certainly got good players up there. We can extend the clock a little bit for Kyle, that he can sit back there and deliver the throws. And if we get the ball out into open space, we got guys that can make some plays down the field. They're talented in the secondary, but they are young. I think there's one senior in the two deep. I know they have a couple sophomores. They got a freshman or two that are kind of in the depth there. So they're talented, but they're just not as experienced on the back end.
Does the forecast impact prep?
Well, it does. I was kind of answering to this a little bit earlier this week. It's all about the ball. You know, we practice out there in a heavy downpour yesterday. I mean, we had to come off the field once we went back out. I mean, it was heavy, torrential downpour. And the focus is on the ball. You know, your ability to take the snap, get the exchange, catch and run, secure the catch defensively, you know, find the ball, attack the ball, get the ball out. I think there's a reality that the rain doesn't really minimize your ability to throw the ball. It's the wind that is the biggest factor. So, you know, the game plan doesn't necessarily change dramatically if it's raining. You know, some people actually have a belief that, you know, your receivers can maneuver more quickly than the DBs because they know where they're going and the DBs don't. So those windows to get the ball in are there, you know, and we do a nice job of keeping the balls dry, so the quarterback's usually throwing a good ball. It's the wind that really changes everything. And when you're looking at the possibility of wind and rain, now you're really looking at, okay, some real thoughts about how to play the game. And then the kicking game. And, you know, there are some definitive thoughts in the kicking game. Like with the personnel that we have, I got a pretty good feel for, like, how we want to play the kicking game with the wind at our back or the wind in our face. And the number I have, 7 to 9 miles an hour. If it's 7 to 9 or more, we have a strategy that we implement for the guys that we have right now that are doing our kicking. It sounds to me like Saturday it could be 20 miles an hour. And So that might trigger some of these thoughts and some of these strategies as you get closer and closer to game time.
They've gotten off to good starts, even in their 1A games, but their second half hasn't been as efficient, for lack of a better term. Does it tell you anything about, is it the ability to make adjustments, or what do you see in that change from first half to second half?
Yeah, the only thing that I would comment on is I think they're a difficult style to prepare for. And so when you come out initially, like against Tulane, the first drive of the game, they marched the ball right down the field and scored a touchdown. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long night for Tulane's defense. They didn't score again. So they have some formations and some plays that are high degree of difficulty plays to defend, and sometimes they use some of those things early to get into some rhythm. I do think some of the things they do in their run game are somewhat unique. We don't see them a lot. So the first time that you're fitting some of these run plays, there's some creases. You're not quite fitting everything correctly. The play action passes off of these run actions are pretty definitive. They get you sucked up in there. They have a higher percentage of hitting some of these earlier maybe than later, So just some things like that. Their tempo, the plays they're running, and then I think defensively, it's just the physicality of that front seven. Sometimes it takes the offense a little time to be able to get their clock up and running to the speed at which they have to operate to handle that front four. So, I don't know, more so than anything like people are out scheming them in the second half or things like that. I just think it's a little more how they play, the attitude they bring, kind of sometimes jumps on people quickly, and then they kind of settle into the game and things may tend to balance out a little bit.
Coach, I know they all count the same, but have you guys talked about the importance of starting out your conference schedule well when you're in the room?
Yeah, they do all count the same, but we focus very heavily on conference play. And, my goal has been, to compete for a conference championship, and that's something that, I'm going to continue to focus on as the head coach here at the University of Richmond. And so it's hard to let that be one of your primary goals and then not try to rev it up when you get into conference play. So, being at home, I think, is exciting again. Thought we performed well here the last time at home, against VMI. And I'm expecting our players to come out with that same kind of energy and passion here. The thing about conference play is just the physicality and the intensity week in and week out, and you're going to get everybody's best shot, and you're going to get 60 minutes of football. So,
Coach, when you look at your defense, still only one sack on this season. What can you point to as the struggles for that unit of just getting to the quarterback, especially in a defensive game that's coming up on Saturday where these possessions going to matter?
Yeah, it's a little concerning. We've had pressure. I do think that our pressures have been consistent with what we've had in the past. We just don't have the sacks to speak of. Our ball disruption, I think, is on track, to being where it needs to be. So I kind of look at all those things inclusively, to say that, sacks and ball disruption and takeaways all fall into a greater or bigger category of disruption. And I think we're kind of where we need to be holistically with that. But as far as just straight pressure on the quarterback, we're not really, where we need to be. And it's certainly an area of emphasis here this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, guys, thanks. Yep.
have the number 8s. Corner Abel on the right and Jeriel Jordan on the left. Anyone questions? Go ahead.
Well, I'll start. Jeriel?
Yes, sir.
What do you think of Maine?
Maine, I've been watching a lot of film on them. They're a solid team. They use a lot of different formations, a lot of motions to hide what they're doing. But yeah, they're a pretty solid team.
I asked Coach Rocco about prepping. Pretty sure it's going to rain. How about you and the defense? Does something change this week?
Nothing changes. Focus is still the same. We practiced in the rain yesterday, so I don't think it should be a factor. Yesterday's rain was terrible. I don't think it'll get any worse than that Saturday. I don't see how it can.
For both you guys, I know all conference games count the same, but do you stress the opener a little bit more to get everything started and off on the right foot?
Yeah, I think we definitely do. Coach Rocco's been stressing to us this week that starting off on the right foot will get us a head start on the conference and lead us in the right direction.
Jeriel, your high school exploits were on offense and defense, as a lot of guys were. And you run as fast as anybody in this program. Were you disappointed that you didn't get to touch the ball wide receiver? Or are you okay? You were okay playing quarterback?
I kind of miss offense, but it's okay. I like corner.
Well, Porter, I'll ask you the same thing since you touched the ball every play on offense too when you were in high school. And I wonder if you came here with the expectation of playing quarterback or wide open as to what would be the role.
I was pretty wide open. They told me I'd be playing some wildcat quarterback stuff, and I did a little bit of that last year. But I knew coming into a program like this that my role was going to be different, and I accepted it, and I really enjoy it.
Well, Jeriel comes from one of the most storied programs in the country. Rockbridge County High School, no offense, that's a step up to FBS or FCS football. Did you have any doubt that you could contribute and excel at this level?
It all kind of started when I started to come to these camps that all these schools had, and I knew in high school that I could compete and do well with all the other athletes, but it wasn't until the camps where I felt that I truly belonged.
Jeriel, is there anything about Maine's offense that reminds you of your own? A little balanced, decent running game, and they can throw it a little bit?
Right, that's exactly what reminds me of our offense. They're pretty dominant on offense. Their O-line pushes the D-line back every game I saw. Their running back, he runs over people he has moves too. And also their receivers are really good. They create open spaces for the quarterback to throw it.
What Coach said was about the passing game when it rains is that it's tougher on defensive backs adjusting to whatever the offense does. Have you found that to be the case?
Last night I did.
And how did you overcome it, or how do you overcome it?
Just got to play ball. When the receivers, a lot of times when they ran comebacks, that was one of the hardest routes I had to cover yesterday because I have to really stick and go, as opposed to if they run a post or anything, I just have to open up. But I really have to stick and change direction. Those are the hardest cuts to do.
And when you're sticking, you're slipping? Is that what you're saying?
Nah, not really. It's just harder to just use one break. I have to step multiple times to break.
Porter, Coach Rocco was just telling us how Maine defensive line is very impressive. It's going to cause some problems for the offense. But at the receiver position, when you're having to get the play off quickly before that pressure gets there, what are you guys doing? What is Lilletta doing to try and counteract that pressure that you guys are going to face on Saturday?
Well, Coach Fisher has told us before that everyone's involved in the protection. Everyone's involved, including receivers, and whether that's being ready for the ball to come our way faster than it would normally, or running our route to correct depth and steps. But yeah, we're all involved in it.
There's a lot of short passing, there's a lot of run game, that kind of thing. Do you anticipate happening on Saturday?
We'll see. I don't see a lot changing in what we've been doing, but I think the rain might play a factor. It may not, but I don't know yet.
JJ, what did last week do for you guys defensively? Mindset, confidence, 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, 2 pick six, your fumble recovery. What level did that take your defense to now moving forward?
Yeah, it gave us a lot of confidence, especially with the pick six that Ayo had in the first quarter, the first play actually. Yeah, that really boosted our confidence and allowed us to create more turnovers during the game. This week, same expectations. We want turnovers.
You guys have a team that, you came off that Villanova win last year, and then you went up there and they kind of upset you. When you guys have a team that did that last year, do you kind of try to tap into that for motivation at all this year, or is not really?
Coach Rocco's really harped on that. Last year, we had that huge win at Villanova here at home. Then went up there and lost. It was a pretty big letdown for all of us. But yeah, they've been harping on that this week a lot, and just trying to keep our minds focused on this game and not letting VMI's win overshadow this game.
Anything else?
How do you guys feel about sharing the same number?
Doesn't matter to me. I shared a number last year with Rashad Ponder, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I like the number 8. That's what I was in high school, so I requested it because I knew Rashad was leaving and knew there'd be an extra jersey left.
And I like Porter.
You had a great high school career as an offensive player. Do you two ever think about, hey, I can sneak in and jump in the lineup and play as number 8, and they won't know until I'm on the field?
Nah, I really was thinking about that, though. Honestly.